All right. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to have all of you. I hope you enjoyed the practice that we just did together and found at least a little bit of release, a little bit of openness, a little bit of comfort. So today, that's what I'm going to talk a little bit on, because this is something that a lot of people really struggle with when they do a practice of meditation. No matter your background, some people come from a background of, traditional Vipassana style meditation. They've visited a couple of retreats. Some people, they come from a background of, some healing form of meditation. Some people come from Chinese traditions. Some people come from Indic traditions. There's a whole lot of stuff out there. But what is quite common actually is that people would bring their working mindset, their everyday mindset, into the practice of meditation. And you can't really blame them, because shifting our mindset completely is a very difficult task. If we don't have that mindset or that awareness of it at all in the beginning, it's going to be quite difficult to change that. So we bring our usual sense of self into the practice, is what that means. And very often, the things that we do throughout our everyday life, everyday grind, is based on achieving something, attaining something, and pursuing things. Therefore, our mind's very often trapped in the future or the past, and is very often involved with activities. We're pushing ourselves a whole lot, and so forth. While that may be required for some of the daily tasks, in meditation is a very different mechanism that is at play, and there should be at play. So you kind of want to have this separation between everyday mind and meditative mindset, at least in the beginning, to bring some awareness to that. This is a very different thing I'm doing right now. And then you want that meditative mindset that you bring into your spiritual training, into your mental cultivation and so forth, into your inner practice. You want to have that bleed into your everyday life more and more. So the primary mindset of meditation is one of release, one of letting go. And so we start with this mindset of release where we're at. So you ask yourself a simple question: where am I holding tension right in this moment? And your body will give you accurate answer. You'll notice, there's a bit of tension in my shoulders maybe. Maybe you're holding a bit of tension around your heart or in your legs, in your hips, your belly. Maybe your jaws or your eyes, your forehead. So if you were to release that, just finding a bit of softness there, in your shoulders or your heart or wherever you're holding tension, does that feel slightly better? Do it right now. Where are you holding tension right now? If you let it go, if you release it a little, does that feel better? It's better, right? So that's the characteristic of letting go. It immediately feels better. There's not some kind of ideal form of enlightenment or something. I don't know, whatever abstract things people think of. But it's very real, very practical, right now. So we all experience different forms of contraction and tension constantly within our bodies. But we're so out of touch with the body most of the time that we don't notice. Body's talking with you all the time. Constantly gives you feedback. One of the questions that the Buddha has his students think of or contemplate a lot is the question, what are you doing right now? What am I doing right now? Better. What am I doing right now? And what you're doing is either leading to openness and release, which is joyful, pleasant, good, or it is leading into tension, contraction. Is that what you consider unpleasant, unhappy, restricted, heavy? So your body is telling you really clearly what you're doing right now. This should not be a mental kind of endeavor. You sit down and you think about what am I doing right now? And then you think about your current state of life and the job you currently have and your relationship status and all that kind of stuff. It's not any of that abstract stuff. It's very practical, very real, lives right here in the body right now. So I'm asking myself, what am I doing right now? Okay, I'm holding tension. Quite obviously, this is something I'm doing. And if I bring awareness to that, if I detect that area where I'm holding tension, automatically I start to let go. Because it's very clear to me, that's unpleasant. It's unpleasant to hold that tension. It's much more pleasant to let it go. Letting tension go, letting suffering, stress and contraction of all sorts go does not mean that you collapse. It doesn't mean that you're falling apart. Letting go of tension doesn't mean that you're just melting on your place and lying down and falling asleep. That's not what that means at all. In fact, what that means is within a framework, a good structure, a guiding system, which is good for you on the long term, within that, you want to find release. So, for example, the framework of right speech, where one of the recommendations or rules is do not lie. Don't deceive other people intentionally. That's a rule. Now you follow that, and within that framework, you let go. That means you have to make a sacrifice. Because now you can't go the easy way and just tell people a lie and then be comfortable, kind of, on top of that lie. You have to go the hard way and tell the truth. But within that, you relax. So speaking the truth becomes a guiding principle. Within that guiding principle, you let go. That's quite challenging. It's not very easy to speak the truth. It's much more easy to be comfortable. And being comfortable for a lot of us implies actually telling ourselves and others little lies, such as, I can't do that. Really? Is that true? You can't do that? Have you even tried? No, it's just something I feel like. Like you're deceiving yourself right now. You actually know you could be doing it, but the truth would be, I'm too lazy to do it right now. Okay, that's a better answer. I'm just feeling too lazy to do this for me. Well, now you would have to question that. Why would I be lazy to do something that is actually lifting me up, that is good for me? Well, I'm lazy because it's uncomfortable, or maybe I'm lazy. The laziness kind of protects me from growing into the person I truly want to become, because I'm afraid of what may happen as a result of that growth. Maybe I lose my comforts. Like the hero's journey, you have to leave the village. You have to get out of the village to confront your demons. And that is something is incredibly uncomfortable. Well, I'd much rather stay in the village. And in order for me to stay in the village and not move out of my comfort zone, I build myself an elaborate construct of lies that I then believe in. So much so that it becomes my body. My nervous system, my chemicals, and everything is in a type of harmony with my system of lies. You can feel it physically if someone calls out your bullshit. It feels like, I've been caught. And then instead of actually admitting to it, a lot of people just continue building a network of lies around it. So following what is true is very good practice. Being sincere, being honest with yourself, 100%, is freaking difficult. And within that difficulty, within that challenge, imagine how much you would grow if you were honest with yourself. If you were just honest with yourself. How much would you actually grow? Because being honest with yourself means you take responsibility for yourself. You can't blame others anymore for your misery. You can't blame your past anymore, because you would have to fully admit that right now, actually, I could do something about it. Maybe it's something small, but it is something. It would make the situation slightly better. Why would I not? Instead, and it's something that comes with modern day culture. I guess that's a symptom of social media. Putting filters on ourselves. Like bending reality to a point where what is actually unhealthy and bad for us becomes good, because everyone just says it's good. It's becoming increasingly popular, these kind of movements. Like what is actually not good being portrayed as good. Excellent. Need more. It's encouraged. It's celebrated. And of course, a lot of it is simply for the reason that when you're in a state of fear, let's say, well, we can sell you stuff. So I'd rather have you in a state of fear and keep on selling you stuff than actually telling you the truth. Which could be something like, well, we don't really know what that thing that we put into our product really does to your body in the long term. Rather than saying it's totally safe. Eat it. And it tastes fantastic. You should give it to your children. There's no concern at all. But the truth would be rather uncomfortable, though, which is more on the lines of, actually, we don't really know what that stuff does to you in the long term, or your children. Like I think there was a, way back, that drama with the Johnson & Johnson, I think, baby powder or something like that, that is now firmly linked to causing cervical cancer or something like that. Like, who knew, right? And to confront our lack of knowledge, rather than painting it over with an apparent kind of knowledge that we have, or a feeling, a sense of security because authorities told you it's true, that gives you a sense of security, right? It makes you feel like, now I can relax because science told me so, or the government told me so, or an authority, a meditation teacher told me so. Therefore, yeah, it must be true. Well, let's just do it. And you completely throw overboard your own responsibility to figure it out. It's much more comfortable if someone tells you what to do, isn't it? You don't have to think for yourself. You can outsource it. And the masses have always been doing that. And here's the news. We are the masses. Can you spot that tendency within yourself? Now that's a step outside. That's good. If you can notice your own tendency of being lazy to think, lazy to actually think things through, and your own tendency to want to be comfortable rather than being confronted with your flaws and mistakes and actually the possibility to fix them, that's where the spiritual path starts. Taking that kind of responsibility for ourselves. Super uncomfortable. That's what honesty implies, though. Like it's all around us. You go into a supermarket, okay, to make that little experiment for yourself. Go into a supermarket and walk through the shelves. Every product is promising you stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's written on the front of those products, but it's anything but honest. With the added benefits of vitamin C, and then you look in the back small print, how much vitamin C is actually in there. It's like 0.0000001 grams or something like that. It's like nothing, but in the front it's the big thing, you know, to make a sugary drink a bit more attractive. Imagine the truth on the etiquette, like on the bottle, would be like, this is really bad for your health, don't drink it, it's going to ruin you, it's going to cause a whole bunch of inflammation in your body, you'd rather not want to buy me. There's actually a guy that's quite funny on YouTube. It's called, I think, If Ads or Commercials Were Honest. Have a look at it. Super funny. He's doing all the commercials about like the sugary diet drink or whatever, and he's just talking honestly about it, what it really does, what's really in it. We're not really, like honesty, sincerity, truthfulness is not our strong suit. Like I can't tell you the amounts of times that I've been busy bullshitting myself from my entire life. And why would I do this? Simple. Because it kept me comfortable. If I were honest with myself, wow, I'd really have to get my act together. More and more so. And that's kind of the voice of my heart. Voice of my heart encourages me to be honest with myself. And it kind of brings up these little inconvenient truths. This is like, look, man, you could do this thing which is really good for you right now, but you'd rather not do it. Why? You choose rather to do something that's bad for you. Why? And then at the end of the day, I look back at the day and I'm like, I wish I would have done that differently. Doesn't feel all that good, like looking at the review and seeing myself act in that particular way or talk in the particular way or whatever. And seeing it and feeling like, I wasn't really something I felt proud of or I feel respect for. So before I get too sidetracked, the point that I'm making is you follow a framework such as be truthful, be sincere with yourself and with others, and within that you need to then learn to let go, yes? So you do what's good for yourself, which is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to throw your body and mind into a state of discomfort. Now, what do you do with that state of discomfort? Within it, you find comfort. You relax. So you're kind of bumping into the edge of your comfort zone because you know what you need to do. We all do. If you're honest, you know. You all know who you should become, what you should be doing. At the end of your life, what kind of life would you want to look back onto? You kind of know that. Who could you become, right? It's a fair question. What am I doing right now? Does that lead me to my full potential? Or am I just kind of wasting my time away? Just going from day to day, hoping nothing will happen. Hoping that, old age is approaching, illness, death is approaching. I kind of just hope I'll be fine. When I know I could right now be doing something that really puts me on track and makes me actually fine. When those storms of old age, illness, death, and so forth approach, then I'll have shelter within myself. I'll be okay. Truly. That's our possibilities. And meditation practice, spiritual practice, whatever spiritual path that you're doing is actually supposed to do precisely that. Give you shelter. In Buddhism, for example, you'd recite the threefold refuge to the Triple Gem is you take refuge in the Buddha, you take refuge in the Dharma, you take refuge in the Sangha. The word refuge is used because the Buddha is a refuge. But we're not talking of the historical person that has already passed away. What could the Buddha be? The Dharma refer to his teachings. What could that really refer to within yourself right now, right here? The Sangha is the community of practitioners, a very practical refuge. You want to surround yourself with people who are good at this, who actually practice to be sincere, to be honest, straightforward, to really uplift themselves and each other. Being part of such a community is very helpful. So if I were to take full responsibility for myself, if I were to be super honest with myself, I'd ask myself, first of all, what do I really want? And the simple answer to that is, what I really want is relief. I want my suffering to end. My worries, concerns, fears, the tightness in my body, I want all that to go away. I want to be free from oppression, constriction. I want my mind to be wide and open, not stuck to anything, at ease. I want to experience peace, happiness, joy. That's what I really want. What does it take for me to get that? Talking of honesty. What do I really need to do to get that? Well, I need to practice letting go. When? Next month retreat? Perhaps starting over next full moon cycle, then I'll start meditation regimen. Or when? What's the most honest answer? Now, isn't it? Am I holding tension right now? Yep. Can I let it go? Yep. Is that better? Yep. I'm on track. So now, what if you would do just that? Let go of tension. Keep going. Keep letting go. Keep letting go. Keep letting go. Two things would happen. You'd suffer less and less, and you'd be more and more happy. When you're getting angry, maybe you see something that makes you angry. You get angry. What's that? What's the anger? Take away the word anger. What is that in your body? It's contraction, isn't it? It's nothing but that. It's oppressive, uncomfortable contraction. If you were to be honest, what would you need to do right now? Well, let go. And it would give you exactly what you want, which is comfort, ease, peace, relaxation, happiness, joy, etc., etc. But why would you hold on to your anger? Well, because you're confused. You don't know what you really want. You think the anger is bringing you to where you want to be. Like if you live it out, if you punch the guy in the face that made you angry, your problem will be solved, and then you can go, I've punched the guy in the face, all solved. But is that true? Again, be honest with yourself. Is that true? Is that going to solve your problems? Let's make it a bit more large scope. Let's throw a couple of bombs on those people. It'll solve our tension problems. Like, how clever is that to you? Will it solve tension problems throwing a couple of bombs on a couple of other people? No. It'll make it worse. Then they will become really tense because you throw bombs onto them, and then they want to throw bombs at you back. And then you get really tense. And you throw a couple of larger bombs back at them in the hope that that will solve your tension problem, your anger, or your discomfort. How about two countries or two neighbors? Let's make it small. Or just husband and wife. They coexist peacefully in their house. But all of a sudden, the husband is not peaceful anymore because he just woke up from a bad dream and now he's concerned. In his mind, there is the idea that his wife may have another guy. And he starts thinking of that. He doesn't let it go, but he holds it. And he keeps holding it. And it starts festering. And it starts invading his, emotional space. And it starts invading his body and then his actions. And he starts acting differently towards his wife. Becomes suspicious. Starts getting the idea to maybe talk about this with his friends. So he goes out, has a beer with his friends, talks about the whole thing. And friends say like, oh yeah, man, that's pretty common actually. Maybe you should hire a detective. Check on your wife. He hires a detective and so forth and so on. Finds out nothing really happens, but then his wife finds out he hired a detective. What's the problem? Is the tension in the guy? Where does it arise from? That he's depending his happiness on his wife. For me to be happy, my wife needs to be a certain way. If she isn't that way, I can't possibly be happy. And the idea that my wife is now out with another guy is threatening my source of income/happiness. So I need to do something about that. Instead of actually doing something about that, what do you really want? Happiness. What's the problem? Oh, depending it on my wife. What if I didn't do that anymore? What if I gave it to myself? What if I made myself happy? What if I dropped, in other words, my own suffering and stress? Sound like a good idea? What if you just stopped being stressed? What if you were just relaxed? Browsing Instagram, going through all those posts, suddenly you notice there's this comedian and he makes a joke. And he makes a joke about women. And you're a woman too. And you get really offended by this joke. So offended that all this tension makes your arm go up and start writing a hateful comment underneath that guy's threat. You don't even know the guy. But now you're impulsively acting out your anger and your hate, telling the guy you should be less hateful towards women. And then, why not relax? Why not just let go? Right in the start, by taking responsibility for yourself, noticing, what arises within me right now? Oh, that's hate and anger. Do I want to be a host for these kind of things in me? Or would I rather want this to dissolve? Be honest with yourself. Do you want to be a host for anger? Do you want to be a portal through which anger enters the world? Through your own actions, your speech, your thoughts, your behavior? Or do you want this anger actually to stop? Well, then stop it within yourself and stop demanding everyone else to stop theirs. But stop it within yourself. That's where it is. That's where the tension is. Again, being honest with yourself means, recognizing I'm tensing up. And then you take the right action, which is releasing it. Now imagine if everyone would do that. Say the husband feels the impulse to go have sex with another woman. That impulse is what? What is that impulse? Is it tension or is it easeful? Is it easeful or stressful? What is it? Yeah, obviously. Because he cannot rest now. He cannot rest anymore. He now needs to pursue the tension. So he's not at ease anymore, quite obviously, right? What if he dropped it right away? Would there arise any bigger problem in his life, in his marriage, and so forth? No. Problem solved. What if you found out that your best friend made a wrong comment and then you can prove him wrong with your right comment? And you're not doing it to simply set things straight, but you're doing it out of vindictiveness. How does that sound? How does that feel like within your body? You're now having the possibility to put yourself above that person. I'm more clever than you. See, I told you. I knew. How does that feel like? Again, same thing, isn't it? It's tense. It's unpleasant. Why not liberate yourself from it? Right then and there. Much nicer. It feels much better to be at ease, to be relaxed. Rather than just compulsively being a host for all those forces that pull you left and right, you can also be at ease. And so the meditative path is really giving you that skill more and more. It anchors you, strengthens you in your non-reactivity, so that you can clearly see whether, this is the right direction you want to go in or the wrong direction you don't want to go in. So you have a choice. Do I want to follow just compulsion, or do I want to follow what's really good for me? And that alone is going to make your life tons better. Give you a more subtle example. Worrying about what other people think of you. How they perceive you, how do they see you? To a point where you need to adopt the way you walk down the street. Let's say you put on that fancy walk. Rather than just walking normally, you now need to puff up your chest a little bit, you need to kind of walk differently. What's that? How does that feel like? What's that based on? Body giving you accurate feedback. What are you holding on to? Tension. And what if you were to drop that? It feels much nicer. You all know, like most of you know my story when I just came and met my teacher in Thailand. Back in the day, I had this, I was always wearing white clothes and had this kind of spiritual demeanor about myself. I wanted people to think of me as a spiritual person. Like I'm a good guy. I'm a meditator. Because that gave me respect. When people saw me on the street, they would sometimes, I had this occasion one time in Tesco Lotus, like this woman just came walking past and he saw me in my white clothes with my amulets and so forth, and then she just looked at me and she showed respect with her folded hands in front of her chest. Older women, which is very unusual. Like older women in Thailand, they would not fold their hands out of respect for someone that's younger than them. It usually should be the other way around. The exception confirms the rule. But what I was really after with my white clothes and my amulets and my demeanor was what? Appreciation. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be appreciated. This guy must be a good guy. He's a good person. And so in order to achieve that, I would sacrifice my authenticity. I would become someone else. I would walk differently, talk differently, etc., etc. And what is all that underneath it? There's a bunch of tension. Based on what? I don't like myself. So I must make myself likable. Then I attach to this idea, that's what a likable person is like. I need to be like that. Imagine you had a monk or a nun that you really respect and look up to. Wow, my dear teacher. And you would know that this person's sole wish is to get your respect, what would happen with you? Would you still feel respect for that person? They do everything they do just to get your respect. The funny thing happens, the opposite, right? You drop the respect. Because you know they're not real. We respect things and people that are real, truthful, honest. What would be more truthful and honest than seeing, wow, I suffer, there's plenty of work to do right here. Let's do it right now, and let's just keep doing it. And again, if everyone would do just that, the world would be a whole lot of a better place. Guaranteed. It wouldn't even grow out into a war, let alone a conflict at home. Why? It's unpleasant, isn't it? Why would I pursue what is unpleasant and tense? No one in their right mind would do that. But we're obviously not in our right minds, since we're doing that the whole day long. Therefore, come into your right mind and rest. Stop bothering yourself. Stop putting on heavy stuff that you then need to carry on. Liberate yourself from your trouble as a service to the world. All right? Are there any